question about what do customers actually pay for versus a trend or what's hot. Trends and what's hot get a lot of press and a lot of front page, first page results on searches of the internet, et cetera. So to some degree, you have to think, like I mentioned earlier, about playing chess, not checkers, and a couple steps ahead. With that said, and we touched on this earlier, how painful is the problem that a business is solving? How close is it to a must have versus a nice to have? And if it's a very painful problem and it leans towards being a must have versus a nice to have, you should at least be getting an audience. And then from there, it's what's the ROI of that product or service? And how strong is that ROI? And can you make a compelling argument to not just the person who's influenced by that in the business, but the people who are looking at it more as an ROI basis and the executive suite, the CFO, et cetera. And then I think to some degree, you might look at two things in the market. You might look at the macroeconomic picture. Are things tough and are people running scared? In which case it's going to be harder to get macro input and feedback about getting budget dollars. Similarly, if the velocity of change is happening very fast, which when the internet first came out, there was a velocity issue. I think AI, the velocity was bigger a couple of years ago. Things are settling down a little bit. And so if you look at the velocity of change, if that is high, then I think companies might be a little quicker to spend. And to some degree, there's a little bit of a, what are the Joneses doing? So are your competition, are they leaning in? Are they not, et cetera? So there's a couple of factors, but I would lead with some of the foundational things we've talked about here today, which would be how painful is the product? How much value to the add to the customer? How strong is the ROI? And those things are kind of evergreen issues. And so then you probably can rise above to get the attention of the executive suite, even if the economy is tough, or even if your competitors or the landscape aren't moving as fast.